no order.
Just so you know, there's sign-in up there for our members, there's sign-in for guests, and then there should be a placard with your name, and a packet that has all the information for tonight.
Okay, so if you guys can take a moment and look at tonight's meeting agenda, and then we're gonna call, and then whenever you're ready, I just need to get a motion to approve that. So I'll call for a motion to approve tonight's meeting or the minutes for tonight's meeting. If I can get a second for that.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so now I want to look over the previous meeting that we had. So the last meeting we had was on February the 28th. Okay. And we had a motion to approve minutes for November 29th.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
If I may, for the presentations where it says approved, is that the indication of us making a recommendation?
To approve the presentation. Where is that? Is that on tonight's agenda?
On the minutes.
I mean, on the
From
agenda
last
tonight?
time.
Oh, from last time? I thought we had already approved that.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'd already approved that.
Okay, I'm good. Motion to approve.
Okay. Okay, so with both of those motions approved, we can go ahead and get started with the meeting. We did update the mission statement, so if you guys want to take a couple of minutes and review the updated version of the mission statement, feel free to do so. And thank you guys for your input in updating the mission statement. It looks a lot more succinct and it looks definitely pertinent to what we're doing here. Okay. Are there any questions with the mission statement or any questions with anything? If not, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Giovanelli for the board report.
Thank you. I actually don't have really anything other than the governor's just recently signed it's actually with on the same bill that they did term limits for school board members. It's regarding the books, media specialists in schools. And in talking with people, that's what I heard, they're saying that some of these books, because we don't have media specialists any longer, that's how some of these books are in some of the libraries, and people aren't just, because you just have someone random buying books and they get whatever, top of the, and it just happens, so, they're not checking it. But, so I find it interesting now that he's requiring media specialists, because our medias, our libraries all look different. Some have them, some don't. So I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that, but that's basically the gist of it.
Well, at least probably 14 years ago that changed when Dr. Browder was a superintendent. It was during that time frame where they moved from every media center having a media specialist. Some have media paraprofessionals now, which is a little different than a trained media specialist. So it's been a long time across the state since we've had that.
Yeah, so I'll be curious how that will play out. But that's really all I have. I don't think anything else really.
Okay, and I'll just use that time to give anyone, because you were allotted 10 minutes on that. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask Ms. Giovanelli or Dr. Spiro regarding, yes, go ahead, Mark. Yes, so I have a question.
So does that mean for the last 14 years, there's been nobody in the Lee County School District that has been vetting any material going into the libraries?
No, that does not mean that.
Okay. Yeah, so who has been vetting it?
There's a whole process in place, and ladies want to join in and.
Yeah, so it depends upon where it's being purchased. So if it's being purchased at the district, from the district level, because we have Overdrive, which is our electronic system. So we purchase books and put them in the electronic system for all of our schools to have access to. And in which case then we have a small team, they are a small but mighty team, that goes through and they review those resources. So they go out to Common Sense Media, they go to our AR Finder, Overdrive has cartridges, and they have recommendations, and we look at interest level, Lexile level, and where it's appropriate. And once it's deemed appropriate and in those places, then it's purchased for district. Now, if it's school-based dollars, those pieces, it's up to the individual school. So we have best practice guidelines that go through all of the same pieces as what we look for when we're purchasing district-wide. And then that purchase goes over to the school bookkeeper, and ultimately the principal's responsible for reviewing and signing off on those materials. So there is somebody, it's just different at each school. As Dr. Spiro said, at a point when I first started, there was a certified media specialist in the building I was at. Most schools right now, there's sometimes volunteers in there, paras in there, it looks very different. That's making the recommendation, but they still have best practices and guidelines of what they're reviewing for before they purchase materials for their school media centers.
Slightly off topic, sorry. Do we have the hard copy book that we're gonna be reviewing?
Yes, I have your folder for you.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
for those of you, thank you. For those of you who replied back to the email and said you could volunteer for some of our challenges that we have coming up, we have most materials for you this evening. We are still waiting for a few of those books. So when we close tonight, we'll make sure we get that at the end of the night for a good of the order. We do have a couple of spots still that we are looking for any member of the curriculum advisory that's able to participate on those. So when we get to good of the order, I will share those, and if you're able to, I can kind of go over what was sent to those individuals that said yes, and we would happily have you join that ad hoc committee.
Candace, we have guests here this evening and they want to be able to see the material that we're gonna view. Is there a place where they can go for that, or?
For tonight's presentation?
Yes.
Yes, it'll get.
Can we gonna follow up afterwards?
Yes, we will follow up afterwards,
Just
so
email
we
it to me.
posted
It's
to our
okay.
pages, it did go out via email, but yes, you'll be able to see it afterwards, we'll make sure it gets posted with the video and everything. It is, so since this is our first face-to-face again, we are live recording from the front, so I know normally we're used to being recorded via Zoom and that gets posted. Now that's going to be our recording that goes there and gets uploaded to YouTube. We do have 2 members that have Zoom links for this evening, so you do have 2 additional members on the computer joining us for tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we used a good chunk of that 10-minute allotted time. So this is a good segue, I guess, into the curriculum directors to talk about the adoption process for the math textbook. So if you guys wanna go ahead and get started with that, and you're more than welcome to.
So we've shown you the date that on February 8th, we did a board briefing. So you're gonna receive like a similar presentation, but it'll be a lot more informal where you're allowed to ask questions. This will go for the board agenda. It was open for a public hearing the last time. And then it goes before the board tomorrow night for a vote. So we just wanted to fill you in. Julene is not here, but she kind of participated with curriculum advisory because she had a child who participated in one of the adoptions and she sat with him. So I hate that she's not here to tell like the experience, but so we didn't have an official member like we had hoped from curriculum advisory, but we did have someone who like listened in. So this is the transition and the timeline for the materials. And so you'll see that last year we went through the English language arts adoption. And then although only elementary actually has what was adopted in their schools right now, the secondary we adopted, but they'll actually start with those materials this year because that's when our new standards start. And then math, our new standards start across the board, K-12, so both elementary, middle, and high school will have new materials for math, and that's what we will discuss today, is that process for the math textbook adoption.
So if we want to go through the next one. So this is our timeline, kind of exactly where we are. Lori just shared with it. We start this process though about the end of every school year in the summer. So the work for the next cycle actually starts during the summer months. We begin, our coordinator for instructional technology and materials actually begins reviewing what the state puts out. So all of our work for this process is guided by the state. And the state comes out with a list of vendors or publishers and says, here is our long list of publishers that we have. And we go to work with having a publishers overview meeting. And that's where we actually meet with the publishers and say, here are Lee County's requirements. Because there's certain things that we require for ease of access for our students, our families, and our teachers. And one of those big things is single sign-on and one rostering. So when we had to go at stay-at-home 2 years ago, we were very fortunate because all of our student applications live on one platform, Launchpad. A lot of other districts across the state and even across the US didn't have that. So one of the first things we say to publishers are you available to do single sign-on, one roster? And that's kind of our technology. Do you integrate with Chromebooks? Do you have the capability that students can access these materials offline? Because we know internet is a problem. So these are things that we go through with our publishers before we even start. And they take a survey, they fill out all these pieces, and they really work with us. Then we take committee nominations, and this is where we send an email out to our principals. So every school, for this year, we're K-12 math, every school was sent a nomination form where they recommended teachers to serve on this committee. We can't take everybody that they send, but we do make sure there's representation from every school. And what I mean by that is elementary has 50 schools. So all 50 of them are represented, but they may have sent a primary teacher and some may have sent an intermediate teacher. Same thing when we get into some of our advanced courses. So some of our math for college algebra, math for college liberal arts, not all of our high schools could send. So we are able to take a smaller subset for that. We also at this time, this is when Lori was sharing about Jolene, her son participated on it, but we open it up for community nominations. We always ask for somebody from this committee to sit on the textbook adoption, as really one of the items that you see tonight is for you guys to help make a recommendation consensus back to the board of approval of this. So we open it up that we have community members. We did have one community member that sat on the textbook adoption officially at elementary, but again, Julene was on there for middle school pieces. From there, where we really take this process, though, is we work with those committees. So teachers had to actually go through standards training because our materials are for brand new standards that we're implementing. So not every year do we do a standards training. Last year, we had to do it for ELA because they're brand new English language arts standards. This year, we're doing it for mathematics as well. So we ask our teachers, they joined us virtually to train on those standards. That way, when they're evaluating these textbooks, they have a better understanding of what they're looking for. Because while the state says, here's a list of publishers for you to review, the state hasn't gone through their process. They haven't completed it before they expect districts to complete it. So districts actually go through this first while the state is still completing theirs. And it's all part of that timeline process in there. Then we go to work over the months of October, November with doing Publisher Showcase, where it's open to anybody in the community. We had several of you join that with us this year. Thank you for those who are able to. It was on Zoom. And then we bring the teachers and community members in for a face-to-face publishers meeting. So they come in, they hear from their publishers, they see the presentation, and that is a process where they just come in and deliver information. So above and beyond what's actually inside the textbook, they're sharing, they like to showcase, share all their bells and whistles that they have at that time, so teachers are really able to evaluate it. And then our teachers follow the interest-based process where we come to consensus. So much like we do here when we're talking about pieces, we get to a place where the recommendation is made from the committee. And that's teachers, community members, administrators, and students who
whoever are serving on it. So we're at the point now, we're getting ready to bring it back to the board for actual approval so we can begin our processes for purchasing. That way teachers can actually have the materials hopefully in their hands by summer. So it would be nice, we hear March, April, but all the districts go through this, so we need to go ahead and move it forward so teachers can have those resources. This is just a quick snapshot of who was recommended, who served on that committee for this year. So we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but that actually gives you the breakdown of the numbers for each of the committees that we had.
And then these are, this was the final choice. They rank them, so they'll go with a first choice and a second choice, and often, sometimes a third choice. And that way, if something doesn't get on the state's short list, so Candace talked about the long list, and then the state also is doing these committees and evaluations, and then they get down to a short bid list. And so it's always tricky. So far, since I've been a part of this, who the teachers have selected have always also made the short list. So I think that says a lot too, that they're very thorough about what they're selecting. But these were their top choices. So in elementary, they chose Savas, which is in Vision, Florida. In middle school, they chose McGraw-Hill. That's for just our traditional 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, Florida Reveal Math. High school algebra and geometry went with Envision Florida as well. And then high school honors, you can see that different courses like pre-calc, prob, and statistics, they went with different vendors for those, as well as the high school college prep courses. You'll see some similarities and some differences for what they chose.
And those are linked, so when you get this as well, I don't know if we want to open one up at all. We're sharing with you the presentation we shared with the board as well, but it's important that you hear other voices since it's teachers and community members.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Adams and I am the assistant principal at Edgewood Academy. I recently had the honor of being on the new math adoption committee. I have had the honor of doing this several times while I worked in Lee County. This one is a little different than any other ones I'd ever done because no one was really 100% sure on these new best standards that we're getting. So the team downtown, our math department, did a really good job at the beginning of getting us comfortable with the standards, really knowing what was going to be expected with the new ones, how deep they were going to be required to do, what was the hands-on piece going to look like. So as a team, we were ready to look at the curriculum with the light of the new best standards rather than going in a little bit less prepared than we thought we would have been. So as a committee, after we were able to feel comfortable with the standards, that made us able to look at specifically the curriculum and look at some of the components that we really felt would be beneficial to not only the teachers, but the families as well as the students as we bridge this gap into the new best standards as a district. So some of the pieces that we felt were crucial that we decided as a committee was the homeschool connection piece, the assessments, what would those look like? The content that was in there, was it aligned to the standards? Was it not? The digital materials, now that we're one-to-one Chromebooks, what kind of digital materials did they have for us to support this? And also professional development for the teachers. So they were getting the support they needed, not only with the new standards, but with how the new standards were to be taught in the classroom. So once we had decided and created a rubric as a team, we were invited down to the district to watch the 5 publishing companies present to us, and they all, we judged them all with the same rubric. We looked for strengths and weaknesses of the companies, and many of the companies had similar aspects, and we liked some things better than the other. Many times it was funny, we talked about, even on the day that we were deliberating for which book, that some of the, we wish we could just like take the companies and put them together. So we kind of had to realize early on that not one book would fit 100% of the rubric, but we could find one that would best fit the needs of Lee County and the direction that we're going as far as problem-based learning and then the hands-on piece with the manipulatives. So after we met, we watched the companies present to us. We met again as a team and we spent an entire day really digging into the curriculum as individual companies. We used 2 rubrics that day. We used a shorter rubric to go through all the companies at first, and then after deliberating a few as a group, we were able to narrow it down to 3 companies. And what we did was we decided on one standard to look at across all 3 companies and compare how it was being taught vertically, as far as from kindergarten to 5th, how did it align with the standards, how were they teaching it? So it allowed us to have a deeper view of the companies as a whole. So after looking at all the companies, none of them received a full score on the rubric. So we had to start looking at some of the more crucial components to see what would help us to better deliberate which company we wanted to go with. So the company that we decided on as a committee was Savas. So why did we choose Savas? So there was a couple of things that kind of stood out to us. One of them is there was a really strong home school connection where on the homework pages, there is a QR code for families to scan, and they can get homework help right there at home from their phones just by scanning the QR code. There was ELL support embedded throughout. There was also professional development that was offered to the teachers before teaching a lesson and before chapters, so they could kind of get an idea for what the lessons will look like and how it will be taught. But the final deciding factor was that Savas was the one that we could find that actually fully aligned to a few of the standards that we looked at, where the other books were lacking, missing one component here or another component there as far as the standard and how deep it needed to be taught, or some of the critical aspects of the standard. So we decided that as a committee that although each curriculum had a couple things the same and they had things that we liked about each, it was really important to go along with one that really fully taught the standards and aligned with them the best. So as a selection committee, all of our voices together, we were able to come to a consensus and decide that we would push forward with Savas. And we really felt that this would be a great resource to the teachers moving forward to continue again with that problem-based learning and that hands-on. And then as we look at these new best standards, to make sure we're really supporting the teachers as we move into next year.
Ms. Adams makes a really great point in here, and it's something that if you have the opportunity to be part of the committee and listen to the work, is something she had said is we wish we could have taken pieces from each book and put them together. So there's never going to be a perfect resource that meets all the needs on the rubrics as they're evaluating it. So the committee is really charged with finding what best meets the needs. And part of that process is before we even start to evaluate any of the textbooks and materials is that those committees talk about history. So where have we been? What's important? So when we're evaluating these resources, what's important for our students here in Lee County? Because that may be very different than students across the state. So looking at those pieces as they're going through it. A big piece at elementary, because I had the privilege of facilitating that group at the very end, and what it came down to for the elementary group is Savas was the only one that had hands-on manipulatives. A lot of the other math textbooks had moved to print copies where you could photocopy, cut them out, and kids could have them that way, and they felt with everything that we've learned the last 2 years, how much benefit there is to students having that hands-on, tactile touching and being able to manipulate. And that was a big conversation with the elementary group. When those individuals come and they're representing their schools. And that's another really important piece as you hear that message when they come in there is they're not coming in as an individual. They're responsible for bringing back all of the information from their teams of teachers and not just their individual grade level, but at that point, that's K6. So they're taking in feedback for 6th grade levels, K5, 6th grade levels worth of feedback that they have there. And we follow that same process for the middle and high school ones as well. And we could show you one of the videos, one of our high school students, and where their feedback was on their recommendation for materials.
Is this the AGA or the honors?
Either one or both students.
And as we pulled up really fast, so it'll probably cut me off, but one of the things we learned over time is that we don't schedule the meetings like back to back, day after day. So that allows them to have some time to go back and talk to their team members and to gather that feedback, so they're not voting as a single person, they're voting as a school. So that's something that we learned over time that we improved upon.
Good afternoon, my name is Dennis, and this year I got the chance to serve on the Algebra 2 High School Textbook Adoption Committee. Not only did I take into account alignment with state standards and teachers' ease of access, but also things that will make it easier for me and others as students. This year, the Textbook Adoption Committee for Algebra 2 chose Savvis as their textbook, and this was because its alignment with Florida standards, its strong assessments, and its heavy teacher support. But me personally, I chose this textbook because of its up-to-date digital content and engaging workbook. Once again, I am very thankful for serving on this committee.
Students, nice and quick to the point, right? So, but you can kind of hear their perspective of where they were coming in. Our students have a very active role in this, so they come and they rotate groups with the teachers. So we put teachers and community members in teams, and they go to different breakout rooms, so they too are engaging with the other members of this committee, bringing voice. So the teams never stick together. So like if Mark and Melvin were together for one activity, they're gonna split for the second activity. That way our committees can hear different opinions throughout. That way when we're really getting down to the one recommendation, we've been able to engage with multiple individuals in here. And I don't know if we can say it enough, but like the district teams and Lori, Bethy, and I, we are just guides on the sides in this process. So really it is the committees that do the work inside this. We just provide those training pieces and then really do the facilitation process.
So each year, if you follow the process that the state puts forward, then you're able to spend 100% of the dollars that the state gives you. It's always short, we're always short money, the state doesn't give us enough money, but it goes along. So I think last time we got about 8 million from the state, and you can see that, especially with price increase and shipping increases. So this is if we got like the best of the best of the best packages for each of those things. This is our estimated cost. Our team members, they spend a lot of time negotiating this down to try to get it to around what the state gives us. If you were to choose something that didn't make the short bid list, or to choose a supplemental that didn't go through the adoption process, you're only able to spend 50% of the dollars. So that's why we choose to follow the state process so that we can use 100% of the dollars that the state gives us. So you can see that, but now you also have to remember too that this, a textbook adoption, like they will have materials for approximately 5 years. It's been longer lately with changes in standards and everything. It's been pushing towards 7 or 8 years. But they continuously update the digital content. It's just the print copies that you're kind of stuck with the older version as they update. So I see teachers shaking their head. They know, yeah. So they have the textbooks for a very long time, so that's why we want it to be a teacher choice. And I'm very proud of the fact that students have entered into the talking points, because funny enough that they you would think that they would want all digital, but they don't. They also like advocate for having paper copy as well, so.
And to Lori's point, those pre-calc and prob and stats, we haven't done the upper level mathematics. We're going on 12 years. So it's been a while since the upper level mathematics, but we are seeing more and more of our students. Those are courses that they engage with regularly. So that's why we have added those to it there. So it was time for new materials for them. This is our landing page. So if you go to leeschools.net and you type in instructional materials into the search, or if you go to curriculum and instruction, one of the tiles that we have there is instructional materials. So this is where we post the review site. This is where we first started with you guys, I think back in October or November when we first shared where was the information. we continuously update this page here. You will notice we actually made some adjustments, so like tomorrow is where we're going forward with board approval. So if we went out to the live site, you'll see that it's on the agenda as an action item for tomorrow, because we're trying hard for our teachers to have their resources by summer. Because inevitably, teachers want to be able to plan. They're not very good at taking a break fully, and they want those materials. And if we wait further, that means we're just delaying getting those resources. So it's also timely that we're bringing it back to you guys today to be able to share these pieces.
Because we're competing for shipping and everything with all the other districts who also have to get their materials. So like we try to start our process early enough to be first on the shipping.
The shipping list.
On the shipping list, yeah.
That really opens it up before we move into the part that Melvin will lead through is questions, general questions for Lori or I on a piece of the process that you'd like to know a little bit more about, or questions you have about what was selected.
I'm always gonna have a question.
Sure.
I haven't had a child in Lee County schools for over 10 years. What exactly does the QR code link to? When they scan that QR code, what does it take them to a tutorial that's like pre-videoed, or is it live instruction, or is it just like sheet after sheet of examples?
It's probably gonna be a little bit of both, but
That one's live instruction.
Yeah,
The
there'll be
elementary
some live.
one's live instruction.
Okay.
Yeah, only because having been in that group at the end and they talked about it, that's a live instruction video piece that goes with it. So it's not more problems, it's an actual tutorial, probably matches what's in the teacher resource, but it's there for a family to be able to click,
So
so,
videotaped.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with like Khan Academy, but they
Yeah.
do instructional videos. It's kind of similar to that.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
Can you shed some light on what the rubric actually contained?
Yes. So it is, Lori, can we navigate up for a second? So we look at content, we look at assessment, we look at technology, those are some of the big overarching pieces. We look at professional development, resources for both teachers and students and families. So like you heard Ms. Adams say in there about resources for families. While we do connect with Lee right now, we joke all the time, the session that gets hit the most is our math. So families are looking for that math support. So when we're looking at, that's one of the pieces that was important to the committee. But we are able to show you, we have what's called a short rubric, which the committee does, it is their priorities. And then we have the full length rubric. And the full length rubric has multiple indicators underneath each one of those headings. And that's where you heard Ms. Adams talk about what we do is we go with 2 lessons side by side. So you're comparing the same exact standard or lesson in each of those textbooks to see how is it instructed upon. But I'm sure we can pull up and show
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
a sample short rubric and then a sample full rubric. But those are the big topic headers of it.
Is that gonna be in my shared drive? It's not coming up in my search.
We can attach it to the minutes as well, a sample of what those two are. But it's content, assessments, professional development, technology, that are in there. And then in each one of those big headers, it's broken down into very specific items. So part of one of them is for students, multiple languages. We serve a lot of students in different languages, what resources are available in different languages for them. So that's a piece that they're looking at as well when they're in there. Of course, underneath content standards, alignment to the standards, what it looks like.
Is that one of the things, I think we mentioned it probably that first week of meeting. You mentioned, I think, something about like, yeah, there's a certain percentage that you guys look for. Cause is it that, you know, if it's under this header, it has to at least match 80% or something, or are you guys looking for it to match exactly the same? Does that make sense?
It does, so there's no cutoff number that goes forward. It's out of 100, so that large rubric.
So it's not necessarily that a threshold is set at 80, but I'll use a great example for reading last year for high school when we evaluated. That committee didn't feel like that even the top scoring book scored high enough that it was a resource that would fit the needs of our district. So they elected not to move forward with a recommendation. So there's not a certain number per se that they need to get to, but instead it's really all around that discussion-based piece of it there.
I can find my ELA and my math and my reading, but not the math. So maybe it wasn't shared with me.
I'll send it to Helen, then we can attach it inside of the minutes so you can see what that exact rubric was. You're welcome. Other questions?
I'm not allowed to ask
That's right.
questions. I'm the visitor, I'm gonna take this whole 10 minutes.
I'm just gonna put in public comment
I'm just
questions.
kidding.
Okay, then Melvin, I'm gonna put it back over to you and I will look for it as we move to that.
Okay, so I guess generally what we're doing is just right now is we're gonna have a general discussion on what has been explained to us and just have a consensus on, I guess, is this something you guys need approval for? Are y'all looking for approval on this?
You approve the process,
Yeah.
you can't really approve the textbooks because
That's what I mean, the process.
they've been open for the public to review, but the process is more what we look for approval.
Okay, so I can just open it up for you guys. If you have any concerns about the process, or if you have any questions that you wanted to bring forth to the directors regarding the process before we take a formal vote on approving the process for textbook adoption. Yes.
Can I ask a question? How do the high school students get nominated? Is it like their teacher nominates them or?
So we ask, when we ask principals for teacher nominations, we also ask principals for student nominations, and then any parent also, if a parent wants to serve on there as well. And then for community members, we post it on our website, and then we let curriculum advisory know that we're looking for members. But it's through the principal nominations. They typically pick someone that they know has an interest in that area, so a lot of these students were, math-minded. And when we did English language arts, it was students that, are interested in writing and that kind of thing, and literature, that sort of thing. Good question.
Would you ever have somebody consider having somebody who's really not math-minded, just for their perspective, a student that struggles with the material, serving on the committee?
We could, yeah, and I think that looking at supports, like we've looked at that also for our English language learners, that, we take whatever the principals give us, that's typically who they pick. But I like that idea of that lens too, because you kind of need the haves and the have-nots and the ones that are gonna really look at those supports in there and see if those supports are beneficial or not. So, yes.
Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment. There's a lot of parents who can't help their kids a whole lot at home, so that would be good to have that.
And I'll just ask a question also, as far as with the ELL support, is that something that is accessible to that, was it the Saba book? I'm thinking more so for high school, is that something that comes with the software, or is that something that you have to request? Like to get translation books, or?
So different parts of the materials are already come translated. Not every publisher offers the material in the same unique amount of languages, which is why it's one of the pieces that the committee looks at. We would have to go back and pull up that individual publisher and see what resources, what were the supports for ELL students, for ELL families as well. Because it is one of the rubric pieces, But I wouldn't be able to say off the top of my head exactly how many languages, which ones, because a lot of the publishers are just slightly different. But it's not something additional for us to have to request. It's part of what the publishing company has. They just all have something a little different.
But it is in the rubric as a consideration piece.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yes, and I have it now, Lori, if you don't mind, I'll unite for just a second. So one of the activities that the committee does is, this is the full rubric here. So you'll see, like, here's content, and on content, they're evaluating for resources demonstrate clear understanding of the best standards, resources demonstrate balance of conceptual, procedural, and application, and they look for each one of these things. So did I give it a 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point here? As we go, you'll see this is the full length rubric and each of the areas that they have, and its total is out of 100. The teachers and the community members and the students who sit on this, they take this large rubric and they pare it down, and as a group, they highlight out what are our priorities and what is it that's important to us, and they come up with the priorities rubric that, I apologize, I got disconnected from Unite. Wow,
So
that's how they feel about the math rubric.
How are we on time? Are we good on time?
Yeah,
We are.
it's smaller, so that one, the priority one, and now you're just gonna have to imagine it with me, and it definitely will get shared, was out of 49. So the smaller rubric was out of 49. The larger rubric was out of 100. The piece of it here, resources support teachers in differentiation of activities to meet the needs of all students, is that category piece that's in there. Resources provide for effective pacing and structures to incorporate differentiation and spiraling. Resources embed multiple languages to support needs of learners, and it's left open-ended like that, but there's an example. You'll get to see it when we attach it there. So I apologize that technology is not allowing me to show you that.
Are the categories weighted? It looked like some of them had more points per category.
Yes,
Okay.
they are. So some of those categories, so like teacher support on the rubric that's out of 100 is 10. The format is 12. Instruction is 13. Assessment was 15. Digital materials was 25. And content was 25. So, and the committee has a part of that as well.
Okay, well, does anyone else have any questions or anything that they wanted to add regarding the textbook adoption process? If not, we can go ahead and take a vote to approve the textbook adoption process. So I guess we can do an all in favor. So all those in favor of adopting the process for textbook adoption, say aye. Or just raise your hand. And those who oppose, just nay. All right, because I figured we were gonna have a majority vote on that, so it looks like we have a majority vote, so, motion was approved.
If you guys could keep your hands up, just so Ms.
Just to record
Helen
it?
can,
Okay.
record it here, so we can. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So our next order of business is, the public comment section. So we have 10 minutes reserved for public comments. I think we only have one visitor tonight. So if you would like to use the 10 minutes to speak, you're free to do that.
I don't necessarily wanna use the 10 minutes, so I'll be quick. I know you all wanna go home. My most important question though for tonight, I'm sorry, my name's Jamie Merchant. I think that needs to be stated before I keep talking. Last week, the Florida Supreme Court did not hear Collier County's case. They were repealing some sort of sunshine law violation. I haven't read all the documents when it came to the adoption process for their books, and I wanted to see if there was any proactive measures put in place with Lee County to ensure that sunshine laws were being used throughout the textbook adoption process you can go back for however long you want, but in Collier County, the last 4 years, any textbooks that they've adopted are completely null and void. And I know that the district spent a ton of money on lawyers and time, and so I think for budgeting purposes, being proactive and getting ahead of anything that might come up to that, being so close to Collier, would be maybe beneficial, but I don't know. Okay, and then Candace, I'm sorry, can you help me understand? So you guys are purchasing the books before the committee has a chance to review and adopt them?
No, so our committee meets, so we go through our process. But the state puts out a long list, they call it the long list of publishers, and that's the list we work off of. Because the state doesn't start their process of narrowing to their short list until typically after winter break. So we did not get an email till after winter break that was a call to action of, are there teachers in your district who would like to participate at the state? Then the state comes up with a short list. And we can only use those dollars that Lori was talking about if the book is on the short list. Now again, in all the years I've had the opportunity to serve on the committee as both a teacher and then in this role, our committee does such a thorough job that our books have always been on that short list. However, if we waited for the state to give us a short list and didn't go off their long list, we would not have materials until we were well into next school year. So it would just cause a little bit of chaos for our students, families, teachers in trying to do that. So we wait though and ensure that the books we recommend are on the state's short list before we actually make purchase.
And that's how you make sure the teachers get their resources over the summer to plan?
Yes.
Okay, alright, just making sure. And then I saw your teacher versus community member ratio was like 25-1. So is that because no one is just interested? How can we get more community members?
We thought we might have more this year because we had community members that came and looked after they were adopted our English language arts. And at that time, we gave them the dates, and welcomed them to come to the math adoption as well. And we did not receive as many as we kind of thought this year was gonna be a big year for community members to attend, but they did not.
We do publish it on the webpage, so that August date, we put all of our dates out there in August. So for the next adoption cycle, and it has in there when we open it up for community members to apply. It's just a quick, hey, who are you, what's your interest? It has all the dates available that you are required to come to, because you can see there's multiple training opportunities. We actually this year even kept the application process open an additional 2 weeks. We changed the date and we sent it out again and tried to promote it and ask for the banner to be updated on our page. So we are always seeking that, and that's something for this committee here, if we have additional thoughts once next month of what else we can do to be more proactive, because we start the process every year about August, we post the dates onto our webpage.
And we do as many online meetings as we can and online trainings as we can. Some, have to be face-to-face, like the publisher presentations. You kind of want to see, especially with math, what the manipulatives look like and that kind of thing, but So, we had hoped that that might help as well, but, we still did not get what we had hoped for.
We want more, so
Is there like an easier, I say easier, but it's probably not easier for you guys. So I know we've discussed this before, sending out an email or adding a little note to focus, a note to focus when the parents sign in, it's,
Yeah, that's something we could think.
hey, we have this available. Are you interested? And they can clearly check out of it, or
Yeah, we can have that.
I don't know how much more work that puts on you guys, or if that's even possible.
Communications, school messenger, we'll find another way.
I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Mr. Montrose had a good one as well that I wrote down, just so the rest of it here is Peach Jar. You guys probably get many things via Peach Jar. We had a Peach Jar flyer that went out as well.
I don't
Another
understand
way.
Peach Star. I get those emails and I just
remember the paper flyers the kids used to get?
don't understand it.
Now they're electronically digital.
I know, I have to send you the one, I'll have to send it to you when I get it, because it's a lot. It's overstimulating. Maybe it's just me, because technology is not my favorite goal. Okay, I'm good, I'm sorry, thank you.
Good to go?
Yeah.
All right, great job. Okay, so,
One thing though,
Melvin, do you want us to address sunshine? I know it was a question.
to address the sunshine law,
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
So we do post, and we follow all sunshine rules when it comes to our textbook adoption process. We post all of our dates, we public notice all of them, and those are out there starting in August. Anything that does get changed is struck through. We do conduct all of our public hearings, have a public hearing officer if need be, and take all of those pieces. Materials are still available right now. So anybody from the public at this point can still go online, review the resources, and the objection form is up. It will be up for 30 days after our public hearing, so those pieces are there, but everything is noticed. Those meetings are public meetings. We put the times that are there, minutes are taken, all of those pieces. So we do operate underneath the sunshine for our instructional materials adoption cycle. And the fact that it follows interest-based process is definitely a help for us in this district. That has been in place now about 7 years, so it's never a vote piece. And we ensure through that process that all voices are heard inside of those multiple days of meetings. So thank you, Melvin, for allowing us to address that.
Oh, no worries, appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna move forward now, and I guess what we're gonna just discuss is the meeting preference. So we can do a thumbs up vote with that, so now you don't have to watch it on a screen to count the screens, we can actually take a vote in person. So for all those who want to meet in person, let's go ahead and just do a thumbs up. Okay, for all those who do not, give me a thumbs down. Give me a thumbs up. So I like to meet knowing you guys in person. So it looks like we have you need a recorded vote?
It was unanimous.
I think it was unanimous. Okay.
You guys check people online too?
Yeah, I saw Andrea. Vanessa, what's your vote on that one? Meeting in person, thumbs up, meeting virtually, down. And one for virtual. Thank you.
Are those that can't meet in public still able to Zoom?
Yeah, that's a question I'll ask. So they are still able to attend via Zoom though?
they are, and they can vote, the public is not.
Is not allowed to?
Yeah, once you decide that your meeting is face-to-face, then the public has to come face-to-face.
I
So
understand.
the only ones that get a Zoom link are our actual committee members.
Okay. That
Yes.
works.
So are you sending this out to everybody, the Zoom link? Because I didn't see the Zoom link.
No, we only send out to the ones who said that they need to meet virtually. So if that's you, we'll send it to you.
No, it's not me, but just in case, sometimes
Yeah.
things happen.
We just have one more meeting.
Yeah, I was just seeing that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and so it looks like what the next meeting is, we're gonna, as far as topic discussions, So like I said, we've always been a transparent group, so is there anything you guys want to bring forth? You just raise your hand, just share what you maybe want to discuss in the next meeting. We can keep it business as usual and just get updates from the curriculum directors, or is there anything in interest that you guys would like to discuss or have discussed in the meeting?
Maybe just real, oh, I'm sorry.
No, good, you're fine, you're fine.
With our, what Jamie, our visitor, was saying, maybe we could speak just 5 minutes on what we plan to do to get more people involved next time around.
Okay. So come with some possible solutions.
Yeah, just, I get emails from the district every day, text messages, everything, so certainly we can add something like that, if it's not too costly.
And I think that would be productive to do. We could either just break up in groups, or that could be something where we come up with different group ideas, or just have an open forum discussion. So I think
It doesn't even have to take up much of time, just.
Yeah, I'd like to reserve probably 10 minutes for that, and then I think that would be ample time for us. Dr. Spiro?
A suggestion, because these are only brainstorming suggestions, so we have summer coming up, we have a lot of summer learning opportunities for enrichment as well as intervention, so I'd like to hear a little bit about what's happening over the summer, and then get some feedback on also, I think the communication, can never communicate enough, how can we deepen that message to our families, so students have access to all the summer information. I think that would be good, so as a possible topic for you to consider.
Yeah, we are, what are we, a month and a half away from the end of the school year? So yeah, that's very important.
No, I thought Spiro just mentioned something, triggered in my head. Do we have some sort of idea as to how far students fell behind if they did it all during COVID, and plans that we have to help them make up for lost classroom time?
We do, it's an umbrella approach, so
Okay.
I would tell you that we spent almost 3 hours briefing the board on what that looks like as far as the data and everything we're doing, because there are a lot of subsets of students inside of the district. But if you'd like a possible topic to, give an overview of that, we're happy to do that as well, but it would be a lengthy topic.
Would it be in order to do that next meeting, or?
It's up to you guys,
Is that something you can possibly include in the enrichment topic?
high level, we could do a high level overview of where we are.
Okay. Okay, so those are two good topics I think that should be added. Felicia, yes ma'am.
So I'm just curious about the bill that's been in the media a lot, and if someone could just explain it in a very unbiased, factual way and how that would relate to curriculum. I don't know what the actual bill is called, but the Don't Say Gay bill.
Oh, yeah, that's.
So just some
I mean,
facts and how that relates to
I
curriculum.
think I can address that real quick.
yeah, I think you'd be the best person to.
So basically what the state has decided is that there's not going to be any lengthy conversations regarding alternative lifestyles from grades kindergarten through 3rd or 4th grade. Third grade. So if somebody came in the classroom and said, I went on vacation with my 2 dads, they would say, okay, that's nice, but there would not be a continued conversation for or against that. So that, in a nutshell, that's really all it is. No teaching, no perspectives given on that one way or the other.
Is that something, I guess I'm not a person that believes in avoiding elephants in the room, because those are conversations that are going to happen, especially when it comes to curriculum. Is that something at least 2 of you guys would feel worthy of having a 5-minute, 10-minute, or probably a 10-minute presentation on, just to get some more in-depth discussion about it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, I mean,
That would be really a good one with our attorney to be able to talk about too, bring that
Okay.
into the conversation.
So I'm looking at 3 topics, so that's gonna take a good chunk of our meeting, so want you guys to be mindful of that. But if we can just limit those to probably no more than 15 minutes per each one, because that'll eat at a whole lot of our time. But if that's important to you guys, if that these topics are important to you guys, it's important to the advisory committee. So we will we can add that on there. But like I said, just try to keep them that 15-minute or less time frame.
Melvin, if I may add just for a moment, just because I feel like it's necessary to share, just so the committee has the understanding as well before moving into next month and that topic, and definitely we'll talk about what does that look like, what does that mean moving forward, but those are not explicitly taught inside of our K-3 classrooms at the moment. All of our health curriculum and health standards and what is addressed inside of our health classrooms is posted to our curriculum instruction page, and you can see exactly what it is that teachers are instructing our students every day. I think one of the things that I have heard as both an educator and a parent is the question around, if this bill is coming, does that mean that teachers are instructing upon this content now? And that's not what that bill means. So moving forward, I think it's important and a good topic, but I think it was important to share here that at any point, any of the curriculum pieces you would like to see of what is taking place inside of our classrooms, what are the standards that our students are being instructed on, that everybody out there has that ability to do so and see exactly what's in our scope and sequences and approved instruction.
But along those same lines, if there's a book in the school that happens to touch on that in those grades, that book has to be removed at this point in time, I believe.
Not yet, can have instructional resources.
Okay. So, and that'll be something, like I said, we'll touch upon when we our next meeting. So we'll go in great detail. Thank you for that, Candace. Thank you, Mark. Okay. So it looks like we have touched on the next topic discussion, and then the meeting calendar for 2022-2023. So exactly on that, do we have just an update on the dates? Okay.
We like to get these out early because in normal years, these rooms are really hard to get, so I like jump on it before somebody books it ahead of me, because there's quite a few committees out there, so I believe this is still on Monday nights, right? Yeah, on Monday nights, toward the end of the month, so we try to keep it consistent.
We check those against holidays and things of that nature.
Yes, I did.
Great, thank you.
Ella double checked me.
Okay. It doesn't look like that's anything we need to approve.
Yeah, you do actually.
Oh, we do need to approve it? All right, looks like it's something we do need to approve. Okay, all right. So, motion to approve the proposed dates for the next school year. I would say I just need a second on that, or do we need an up or down? Do we need a
Just approve.
Just approval, okay, motion, so can I get a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mark. All right, proposed dates approved for next year. And then I guess for the action and next steps, what are we looking for specifically for that?
So we have our marching orders on the agenda, so is there any other thing that the rest of us need to work on to prepare for the following meeting, or any follow-up from this meeting that we need to prepare for?
No, they said we'd send the rubrics out, the textbook rubric, which and notes.
And then also just including the 3 topics that we're going to be discussing for the next meeting.
Okay.
And then I'll open that also up to the good of
Send the
the.
bill as well, okay.
Yes. And then I'll also open that up to the good of the order as well, so just use that opportunity if you guys think of anything else that we need to add to the meeting.
Melvin, I have the one good of the order. If anyone is available, these are the dates that we still had and times where we could utilize a member. So you can let me know at the end if you are, but we have April 5th from 10 to 11, April 5th from 11 to 12, April 19th from 2 to 3. And then May 6th from 10 to 11. We did have an individual who was able and volunteered, but those meetings are in person and they don't have a Zoom option. Those are public meetings, so unfortunately, they were not able to follow through on one of those dates. So if you're able to at the end, just let me know, and we will grab your names and also the books and the materials for that.
When we send the follow-up with the things that you asked us to send, we can send those dates and times as well.
Okay, is there anything else to the good of the order, or whether or not we need to ask that needs to be put on the agenda for the next meeting?
I'll just add that, I'm relatively new to all this, and I just appreciate Charles' patience answering my questions and making sure I stay informed, so.
We'd rather have an active committee than one that passively sits by, so thank you for being engaged. But I do mean that, yes.
Yeah, I can say that as the chair, that I appreciate everyone in here. You guys everybody in here has a vested interest in education.
Stephen Ellie has her hand up.
Just real quick, I wanted to piggyback off of, I think one of you asked about the, the students that have fell behind. One of the reasons for the 7 period schedule was part of that. And we just got briefed on that, was that just the last meeting? And I don't know if you wanna get a little more information, like what the schedules will look like, because they're really having to be creative to have the electives and so forth, and it's the principals are doing it at each school, but I think some of it can look a little different at different schools, I think.
And if you'd like, we could send a board briefing.
That's really
did with the board, and we went over the progress monitoring data and really in-depth plan of how we could make a note to send that with the notes, just a link to that board briefing. That might be helpful, and that would maybe give some folks a little chance to look a little deeper too.
That's all.
Thank you, great idea.
Okay, so I think that is pretty much everything we're gonna be covering. Candace, you said after.
Sorry, I disappeared so I can hit stop when we're done.
You said afterwards, if anyone wanted to.
Yes, if anybody wants to volunteer, if you want to pop on over, we'll get it scheduled.
All right. So, motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Okay. So voted. Meeting adjourned.